It's my absolute pleasure to introduce Raghu Belur from Enphase Energy. Raghu, of course, is one of the co-founders of Enphase, having founded Enphase over 20 years ago. Raghu is a thought leader, a founder in this space, and having had the opportunity to visit with him briefly earlier today, he's also a very kind, generous human being as well. And that is a really fantastic combination of traits. So Raghu, when we were speaking earlier, he also mentioned a couple of fun Wisconsin ties that I thought I would mention before I welcome Raghu to the stage. Raghu, your nephew graduated from the University of Wisconsin-Madison, and one of the Enphase board members, T.J. Rogers, has roots in the Oshkosh area. So it's nice to always hear about some of those connections between Wisconsin and Silicon Valley, and some of the amazing work that Raghu and his company continue to do in this space. So please join me in giving a very warm Wisconsin welcome to our keynote speaker, Raghu Belur.
Thank you, Josh. Thank you. Yep. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Josh. Thank you to Renew Wisconsin for giving me this opportunity to speak. I'm not shy about sharing my thoughts about the industry, sharing my thoughts about how I see the industry evolving. But we are in the midst of great change. And great change, along with great change, comes great opportunity. When you just really look at everything that's going on in our world today, you see there's a lot of noise out there, right? Whether that is geopolitical, that's policy, 25D, 4080, this and that, and there is a lot of noise. But then as an engineer, I always think back to first principles and I go, yes, I accept that there's all of this noise, but what is kind of fundamental in change, right? And I think it's about our energy infrastructure. Our energy infrastructure has to evolve, has to change. And I also think about it as how important our industry is, how critical our industry is. It's, in some sense, for our industry, it's not we all want to win, but it's an imperative to win, not just for our industry, but it's for everybody, for everybody's benefit. And I'll explain what I mean by that. These are not just empty words, right? So let's start with technology. So, being a technologist, that's kind of where I always start. Enphase was my fifth startup. And, that's very normal for somebody who's spent their whole technology career in Silicon Valley. When we started Enphase, I started it with a business partner of mine. It was the classic 2 guys and a dog in a basement and venture funded and all that good stuff. But that's kind of where we started. And our view always was decentralization or distributed architectures always win in the long run. They win for cost, performance, and reliability reasons. So if you look at all the technology existence proof that exists out there, right? If you think about mainframes to PCs, plain old telephones to smartphones. If you look at data centers, they're not built using big monolith compute. They're built using thousands and thousands of replicable blade servers. You see in network parlance, what that means is that more and more intelligence gets pushed deeper into the network. The endpoints are very intelligent. They make autonomous decisions. Now look at our energy infrastructure. Our energy infrastructure is completely centralized. We have big generation, transmission, distribution, and the home. The home is not that intelligent or has not been that intelligent. And that's what our industry has changed. Our industry has started to change where the home becomes the unit of intelligence. The home makes autonomous decisions. And it starts with it produces its own energy. It consumes, it stores intelligently, consumes intelligently, it optimizes locally. But what it also does is it's a hyper-networked system, and so it helps optimize the operation of the grid. That's the grand vision. We are about 4% into that vision. We have 96% more to go. That's 4% is the penetration of renewables here in the US. Right? We have a long, long ways to go. 96% more to go, but that's the start. And that's kind of where we started when we started Enphase. We're saying, why is everything centralized? Everything, all the other technologies have evolved to decentralization. Here's a 125-year-old technology and it hasn't evolved. It needs to evolve. And it is starting to see that that evolution has begun. The second thing that's happened is it's not about solar anymore. We are not a solar industry anymore. We are an energy industry. An energy industry means more than solar. Solar is still the hero of the show, but it's more than solar. It's about solar, it's about batteries, it's about EVs, it's about electrification of the home. It's about managing that whole energy system within the home and all the software that ties it together. And it's not just optimizing, like I said, the home alone, but it is participating in the operation of the entire grid. What is the alternative? There isn't one. This is the only choice. So when you think about the evolution that's taking place in energy demand, you'll realize that this is the only choice. Now let's talk about that. Homes are electrifying. An average home in the US consumes about 30 kilowatt hours of energy. Every EV on average consumes 15 more kilowatt hours per day. 2 EVs, that's 30. I just doubled my home's consumption. Add a heat pump, that's another 15 kilowatt hours. Everybody should add heat pumps. They are like 4x more efficient than a fossil fuel-based heating element, right? So here we are, massive demand here and growing on the home energy demand. Now, 8 years ago, we weren't thinking about AI and AI data centers, especially training data centers, not necessarily inference, but training data centers. Training data centers consume massive amounts of energy, right? And they are very demanding energy. They fluctuate about every 4 times a second. If you look at GPU clusters, their power demand varies from 20% to 100%, 4 times a second. These are massive power clusters. If you reflect all that back to the utility, what do you think is going to happen? It's going to be very, very stressful on the utility. So our friends in the utility are really stressed because from an energy demand point of view, they are getting pressured from both ends, from the data center end as well as from the homes. In the backdrop is we have to harden our grid. We've got 100-year weather events taking place every year. So all of that will require massive investments. And in a volumetric pricing environment, who sees those investments? It's reflected in your utility bill. That's why we are seeing significant increase in utility bills. And that's not going to stop. So we talked about the power demand in the home, or energy demand rather, in the home going up 2x to more than twice. And that demand is not a uniform demand. It's very peaky demand. We don't all consume at the same rate, right? So that's stressful. On the grid side, a gigawatt data center, that's the other fascinating thing. Data centers are specified in power. Data centers are not specified in exaflops, right? They're specified as gigawatts. A gigawatt data center is nothing. People are talking about, if you look at the Stargate project, they're like 5 gigawatts, 15 gigawatts. Every gigawatt of data center costs $50 a watt. $50 billion for each data center, for 1 gigawatt of data center, and it's 640 acres for every gigawatt. Insane amount of power needs. And if you look at it as a snapshot of time, it's a zero-sum game. That power's got to come from somewhere. So should the utilities, our friends in the utilities, focus on data centers, or should they focus on the home? And it's very messy out there. So now let's focus on the home. We can help. Not only can we help, we are really the only solution. When you're looking at power demand in the home going up, that as much as I said, how do you solve it? You have to, in order for the utility to support it, you have to rip and replace the distribution infrastructure. I read somewhere that's a $100 billion proposition and extremely disruptive. You don't have a choice. It's solar and batteries in the home and EV chargers and software and heat pumps and energy management. That is the solution. But take it a step further, not only do we help optimize the home and the home's energy consumption, but what we can also do is help the grid. We can help the grid by actively participating in the energy markets. We also hear about that as VPP or flex loads. Right? Today, what people are doing is they are saying, oh, I have a battery, so that's my VPP or virtual power plant contribution to the flex load. But we got to think bigger than that. Right? We got to think about what else can contribute as a flex load. Behind the meter resources can be really, really powerful in helping out the grid. It's not just the stationary batteries, it's loads, it's also EV chargers. It's bidirectional EV chargers. By the end of this year, you'll see EV chargers will be fully bidirectional, right? And so that gives us, our industry, tremendous amount of power, pun intended, right? We are the only choice that everybody has in all of this noise. So I really want to emphasize that while we may feel like there's a lot of noise out there, there's a lot happening, the reality is our industry's role is very critical, and our industry's role is very important, and sometimes we tend to underestimate the importance of our industry. Now, that doesn't mean that we are not facing challenges. We do. But I've been in this for 20 years. I passionately dislike the word called solar coaster. Everybody hears about it. I don't agree with it. Solar coaster leads me to think that we are not in control. But we are, right? So let's look at some of the changes that are happening. If you think about, and we note that 25D has expired, right? California, with NEM 3.0, which expired in 2023, was a very disruptive event, as you can imagine, right? There was massive demand pull forward, and then the whole market slowed down, etc. But at that time, I was probably one of the few people who went out and said, hey, this is the best thing that could have happened to California. Yes, there were real jobs lost. I accept that. But it was the best thing that could have happened to California and to our industry in the long run. And I was right about it. California revenues are at the highest right now. Why? Because now we have 100% solar attached, and we are no longer beholden to anybody saying, I'm going to take NEM away. It's done. So when we think about things like 25D and the impact of all of that, yes, it's painful. But I always say that these kind of incentives, whether that is a investment tax credit or NEM, which is also an incentive, or any other incentives, they need to be a catalyst and not a crutch. There are other industries which are, for the last 100 years, have been getting incentives. Let them be. What we want is, let it be a level playing field. Let free market drive it. Let the best technology win. And we know for sure our technology, as in our industry's technology, will win. So in some sense, while it feels painful that, 25D is going away in a place like Wisconsin, and there is no, and the impacts of that, I think in the long run, it's not a bad thing. We are no longer a political football. They can't hold it over us. I mean, I dealt with it for the last 18 months, endless trips to Washington, D.C., and it was painful. I'd rather be in California inventing things than traveling to D.C. and trying to convince politicians, who, by the way, are very reasonable when they speak with you, but then politics takes over and all hell breaks loose, right? So I really think that the sooner the government's out of the energy business, the better it is for our industry. And we should never underestimate the importance and the criticality of our industry. I'm just going to take a quick peek at my notes to make sure that I didn't miss anything. So in some sense, I'm just going to conclude here. In some sense, the changes are so dramatic. The role that our industry plays is vital. It's critical. Winning is not, hey, a nice thing. We all want to win, but it's an imperative. We have to for the betterment of everybody, because this really is, our industry is the only solution. It's not about solar anymore, and it's about energy. Everything feels right about it when you think about it on a first principles basis. Technology evolves in this direction. This really is the only solution. We are the economically most viable solution. So we are the most reliable solution. It's the best solution for the homeowner. And we can also help make the grid better, because we are no longer simply attached to the grid. We are actually integrated deeply now into the operation of the grid at multiple levels. Thank you.
Raghu, thank you so much for your comments. Very inspiring and a truly optimistic perspective in these challenging times. We have a few minutes for questions before our keynote speaker has to depart. So I have a couple of questions ready, but anyone in the audience, if you have a question that you're looking to ask, you can raise your hand, and maybe we can ask for some help in getting some of the microphones out to the audience, and thank you to the staff for helping with that. I think there's just this one microphone, so I would go up to the podium for my first question for our keynote speaker. So I'll kick off the question, and then we'll queue up some questions from the audience. So Raghu, thank you again very much. So my question is around some of your vision when you've shared about the difference from people, homes or even businesses as being sort of at the very end of a large centralized one-way power system versus homes or businesses that are active participants in the grid, that are, I think the term that I've heard you use in the past is prosumer as opposed to consumer. So I'm wondering if you could share a little bit more about some of your perspective on what a prosumer looks like, and what could it mean for the future? Thank you.
I think one way to think about it is simply it's supply and demand and pricing. Pricing signal is very powerful to shape behavior, right? Having said that, we should always think about this is a problem of abundance. It's not a problem of scarcity. We have plenty of sun, right? It is a problem of abundance. So pricing signals become really important. Historically, pricing signals have been pretty flat, so it doesn't really shape a certain behavior. But now you're starting to see in places like California, you have time of use rates, right? For example, where I live in Northern California, in the Bay Area, my daytime rates when I buy energy from the grid is about 25 cents a kilowatt hour. But then summer afternoons from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m., I could be paying 60 cents a kilowatt hour. San Diego, 4 p.m. to 9 p.m., people pay 82 cents a kilowatt hour. So massive amount of energy. But it's right, it's supply and demand, because at the time, demand's very high and the supply is constrained. California is about a 40 gigawatt grid. So pricing signals can definitely shape behavior. San Diego has the biggest battery attach. Why do they do that? Because battery gets a chance to arbitrage the rates. The middle of the day, I charge my battery, and between 4 p.m. and 9 p.m., I do not buy from the grid. In NEM3, they did something really interesting. They said if you export, so time of use still stays. If you export energy in the middle of the day, the utility pays us 2 cents a kilowatt hour. Why? Because they're swimming in electrons, right? There's plenty of energy available. But if you buy energy between 4 p.m. and 9 p.m., you could pay 82 cents a kilowatt hour. On the other hand, if you export energy between 5 p.m. and 7 p.m., they were paying at one time $3 a kilowatt hour. It was worth it. It was better to pay the endpoint $3 a kilowatt hour than start up a peaker plant. It's a pure economics. If you look at what's happening in Europe, it's really interesting. They've already moved to dynamic tariffs. So at 11 a.m., our system receives a schedule that starts at midnight that says, here's your hourly buy and sell rate, completely dynamic. It's exactly how the utilities buy and sell energy. It's a day-ahead market. And then our systems, in our case, I'm speaking for the Enphase system looks at the rates and adapts and figures out, okay, when do I charge the battery? When do I discharge the battery? When do I charge your car? Soon, when do I discharge the car? When do I turn on your heat pump? Because there are times when you get negative rates. The utilities may have, the network may have so much energy that they pay you to take that energy off the network. On top of that, there are requirements for imbalance. So balancing out, if they don't predict supply and demand correctly, then it creates a lot of imbalance, which is again disruptive to the network. But my point being, energy becomes a really manageable market. And if you have the software and an intelligent piece of software that's sitting there looking at all of those variabilities, you can deliver fantastic economics to the homeowner. And delivering fantastic economics to the homeowner means their payback reduces, ROI goes up, they buy more systems. Right? So it's a complete win-win in that situation. But that's where the markets are evolving towards. More and more, either it's going to be fixed signals like they have in NEM3, but very soon you'll start seeing day-ahead pricing, real-time pricing for electrons, and like it should be. I think systems have become really intelligent. AI helps a lot in making those determinations on how the system should behave in order to optimize the homeowner's needs.
Yeah, I just wanted two clarifications. You mentioned 25B. Are those the IRA tax credits?
Correct. 25D is the tax credits that were available for homeowners. 30% IT investment tax credit that was available for homeowners that sunsetted on December 31st.
Right. And the other question is industrial technology. What are you talking about there? Is it the entire United States technology infrastructure, or is it Enphase and the technology that you bring to the table?
I mean, sorry, if I understand your question correctly, I think I'm talking about the energy infrastructure and the technology that's driving the energy infrastructure. And so I think for the most part, companies like Enphase and other companies like Enphase are doing a lot in not looking at it as, okay, I'm going to put more solar and solve this problem. That's just not how you solve the problem. You got to look at it more holistically. You got to look at it like I'm solving the energy problem and I'm solving the network problem. That's what I mean.
I'm wondering if you have an insight on the bidirectional charging and what has held that technology up to this point. Has it been integration with utility? What was the tripping point? I'm hoping it will change at the end of this year, but
it will. I think more and more there are a couple of driving factors. It's about timing, right? First and foremost, people have to recognize the value of that flex load. That load is a very, very powerful flex load. I call it a load, but it's actually both it's a flex resource, right? Not only can I be intelligent about when do I charge, what rate do I charge at, which kind of electrons do I use? Do I buy from the grid and charge my car? Do I do green charging, which means I only take my excess solar and charge the car? Plus, hey, what else can I do? Can I take what's charged in my car and dispatch it to the grid when needed and get paid for it? Can I use the energy that's in the car and service my home in the event of a grid outage? So if there's a grid failure because of a bad weather event, I don't have solar, I don't have stationary batteries, but I have my EV, I can then power my home with an EV. So it's a question of timing. One is recognition of the value that it creates, and second is there are some just practical things like we needed a standard for bidirectional charging. So that standard's there. Now there is ISO 15118, which is a communication standard, nice handshake between the system and the car. And then finally, we needed the car guys to open up the car to enable us to discharge the battery, and that's also happening now. So it was a question of timing. The technology existed. It was take the technology that we have, that we put in our stationary battery, and adapt it to the car, and that's what we have done. There's a very nice video on the Enphase website if you go take a look at it. We've done a lot of testing with multiple cars and shown how nicely it works. It's really nice.
A question for you. A previous speaker said there were over 1 million patio solar installations in Germany, and in the US, I think there's hardly any, and I'm wondering what your opinion is of those, and if Enphase is working on some type of solution that utilities might be objecting to now.
Yeah, it's called balcony solar. We have, Germany has, it's about a 400 megawatt a year business in balcony solar, not for Enphase, I'm saying the total addressable market. It's a good market. In the US, the last count I had 11 states. It started with Utah, California. 11 states are passing policies to encourage balcony solar, and I think it's a great thing. It's fantastic. Enphase already has a product for that. There are some regulatory barriers we have to overcome, not policy. This is around how the National Electrical Code ensures complete safety when you are doing balcony solar, when you plug it in. We need to make sure that we don't create a safety hazard. So I think those are the standards that are being developed. It's a matter of time. I think it's great. I think it allows even folks with small systems can also now participate, either offset their own consumption and do all of the things that we talked about. Hey, help the grid out when needed or sell to the grid. It's just better economics. But I think it's a matter of time. That's coming. I think that's a lot of work. Even Enphase is doing a lot of regulatory and policy work to enable that.
I'm a marketer. We tell complex stories, make them simple for people to understand. What do you think are some of the big stories that really need help being told across the industry?
I think it's really simple in my mind. This is the best solution for the homeowner, right? We have to work, look, we are installing a 25-year asset. Okay, so the payback period moved out from 5 years to 7 years. It's a 25-year asset. And it's a financial instrument. What is it's like a bond that pays annuities every year. And here's the beauty of it, it's fixed. Even if the utility rates continue to go up, I don't think anybody's saying utility rates are going to come down, right? They may come down on a very short-term basis, but the reality is for all the reasons that I alluded to between the demand on the data center side, demand on the home side, hardening of the grid, utility rates have to go up. It's physics, right? So if that's the case, we just have to convince homeowners that it is the right choice. In some sense, it's the only choice. Nobody's going to rip and replace. It's a matter of time. As the rates keep going up, affordability is becoming such a big deal everywhere that people are starting to recognize. And for the first time, I had my earnings call a couple of days ago, and we mentioned that on our call. We said we are starting. 2026 feels a little bit more positive than we thought. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that affordability is so top of mind for everybody, so critical, and that people are now seeing, hey, what is my alternative? I'm not sticking a small modular reactor in my backyard.
Hi, John. You said that you have faith that the market is going to take care of the adjustments that need to be made, but we're looking at an industry that, with support from government incentives, hasn't been significant in the energy arena. So I'm just wondering how you get from there, from here to there.
I think, again, if I understand your question correctly, I think it's the government incentives that in some sense are a problem. There's a lot of, feast and famine type phenomenon that take place when the government decides, to change incentives or to stop incentives and all of those. It's just that causes more of a problem than not having it. I was so fed up last year with this whole debate about 25D. I was like, just make a decision already. Be done. The industry is going to be fine for all the reasons that I said about, hey, this is the only choice. And utility rates are going to go up because of utilities have to invest. We are all in the same boat. We all have one goal. We have to service the customer. We have to deliver the best economics for the customer. So the rates have to go up. It's a given. They have to make investments. And solar and energy systems is the solution. So in some sense, 25D was good and we got the ITC that was good. But I think it was also the fact that, there was always a threat that it would go away. Just like there's always been a threat that NEM is going to go away, net metering is going to go away. And finally, once it goes away, the industry kind of recovers. Look, it happened in California as well, right? NEM was so traumatic for everybody. I remember being in that first NEM discussion with our partners, with our installer partners, and they were like, oh my God, battery attach rate at the time was 15%. They were like, I have never done a battery install. I don't know how to do a battery install. What am I going to do? And now 100% of all systems need batteries. And fast forward, literally 12 months, 18 months, everybody's a battery expert in California. It's 100% attached on batteries. And the demand is there, even though you're adding a battery.
This question came in on the app. I understand that politics can get in the way of efficient processes, but why would we want the future of energy to be left exclusively to the industry? Does this not run the risk of exacerbating inequities and in energy access if guardrails aren't put in place?
I think if it is free market, I think free market ensures that the best technology, the best product was going to win. And it's been proven in many cases. It's been well proven. So I'll always go back to, will there be threats that, hey, one another industry is going to get disproportionate amount of incentives? Yeah, that may happen for a little bit. But at the end of the day, again, like I said, let's say the government decides small modular reactors are going to get a massive amount of incentive. They're not going to be sticking them in the backyard. This really is the solution, right? And then they have to deal with this. Some other administration shows up and they don't like that, and then they'll say, okay, that incentive is going to go away. And then the following administration says, oh, we love that. Okay, here it comes back. And that's disastrous for every industry. So my personal view is the sooner we walk away from the crutch, the better, because we want it to be a catalyst.
Okay, we have about 5 minutes left before Raghu has to leave. So Josh Arnold, if you want to ask your last question, that would be wonderful.
Ismail, thank you. I'll take the prerogative of asking another question. Thank you. Raghu, I've heard you say in the past that there are no more solar installers. Instead, there are energy consultants, and that and all the things that go along with that. And so I guess my question to you, I have the opportunity to work at an institution of higher education, and I work with wonderful students from a variety of disciplines and skill sets. What are some of the skill sets that students, what are some of the training that students can explore as they might look to position themselves for a career in the clean energy industry?
Thank you. Great question. I'll give you my personal view and a personal anecdote as well. When we started the company, it would have been easy for us to name our company Enphase Solar. We didn't, because I really pushed for, hey, we are not solving the solar problem here. We're solving an energy problem. And so that really set the stage for the company to think about the problem much, much more broadly than solar alone. Everything from solar and batteries, and at the time, maybe not that much about EVs because this was back in 2005, but we just intuitively felt that, no, we have to solve the consumption problem, every problem that relates to the energy within the home. And we also felt like, no, these are hyper-networked systems. They can participate, they can help in the operation of the grid. And so software and management of software became very critical. So we are a systems company. We have twice the number of software engineers as we have hardware engineers, right? So when you think about what students, deeply understanding what are the sources and like a prosumer, right? What are the sources of generation? What are the sources of consumption? And the software to determine what's the most optimal way to ferret all of these disparate energy or power resources within the home to deliver the best economics for the homeowner. Furthermore, who are the other participants in the ecosystem, right? Our friends at the utility are a key participant in that ecosystem. What can we do to improve the economics for the home by participating in the operation of the grid and getting paid for it, right? So what resources can I flex? We all never think about solar as a flexible resource. Whereas if you look at places in Europe where there is a lot of deployment of solar becomes a flexible resource. Curtailing solar is a economically viable option. This may sound strange, but it is an economically viable option. So just deeply thinking about energy usage, sources of energy, and consumers of energy, and then the entire ecosystem is vital, right? Even things like energy efficiency is a really important part of that, right? So I think there is tremendous amount of opportunity for students who come out of academia to go look at our industry. I think our industry is, like I said, our industry is mission critical, quite candidly. Okay.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Raghu. Please join me in a big round of applause for our keynote speaker, Raghu Belur.
Thank you. Awesome. Thanks, Josh.